What happens when a starving hyena snatches a baby gorilla in broad daylight and doesn't run for food, but something far worse? What she did next left the entire jungle frozen in disbelief. You ever find yourself doing something decent just because it feels like the right thing to do, only to have the universe throw a brick through your window 5 seconds later? Yeah, that was me. Except I didn't have a window. I had a jungle, and instead of a brick, it was a hyena. The day started like any other in our corner of the forest, damp, loud, and buzzing with gossiping monkeys who always acted like they were late for a meeting. I was minding my business near the watering hole, trying to keep the younger ones from turning the stream into their personal slip and slide. That's when I noticed little Lumi, all limbs and curiosity, wandering a bit too far off. Now call me soft, but I've always had a thing for the underdog, the runt, the one who doesn't quite fit in. Lumi was that baby, slow, awkward, always the last to get a fruit, the last to get picked for anything. I saw him stuck between two rocks, struggling like a toddler caught in a sweater. I didn't think. I just moved, pulled vines, dug into the muddy ground with bare hands, got my fur tangled up like I was wrestling a thorn bush. And all the while, the little guy looked up at me with those big, confused eyes like I was some sort of hero. Yeah, hero. I barely had time to wipe the mud from my face when I heard it. That sound. A low, sharp, too familiar growl that meant one thing. Something out there had teeth and absolutely no sense of manners. I turned my head just in time to see the blur, a streak of brown fur, low to the ground with eyes like broken glass and the posture of someone who's got nothing left to lose. A hyena, not part of a pack, which made it worse. This one wasn't hunting for food. She was running on fumes, desperation, and maybe a little madness. Before I could even process it, she lunged. I put myself between her and Lumi. Instinct. I didn't think. Got knocked flat. My shoulder cracked into a root, and Lumi tumbled from my arms like a sack of fruit. I reached out. Too late. Her jaws clamped around him, careful but firm, and she vanished into the undergrowth like smoke through fingers. And there I was, lying in the dirt, tasting blood and failure. Now, if this were some fairy tale, I'd stand up, roar with purpose, and lead a proud charge. But in the real world, you drag yourself up, one shaky foot at a time, with mud on your chin and fury in your gut. I followed. Not because I had a plan, not because I thought I'd win. I followed because someone had to care, and no one else was moving. My legs ached, my lungs burned, but I kept going, tearing through vines, stumbling through thorn patches, ignoring every internal voice that said, "Stop, she's long gone, you can't do this." That voice? It sounded a lot like my father's, to be honest. But then I saw her, up ahead, through the trees, and what I saw made me stop dead in my tracks. Not because she was eating him, not because there was violence. Number, because something was off. She was quiet. Lumi still wriggled, but she wasn't attacking. She was hovering, licking his fur, almost protecting him. What kind of game was this? Before I could figure it out, the others showed up. 3 males from our group, all muscle and no patience. One of them barked so loud, birds took flight. The hyena flinched, grabbed Lumi tighter, and took off again, deeper into the green. Now we were really in it. This wasn't a rescue. This was a chase. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this unfolds because nothing, and I mean nothing, about that hyena was what it seemed. Let me tell you something about the jungle. It doesn't hand out explanations. It doesn't send you a memo with bullet points. It just keeps throwing curveballs, and you either duck or get smacked in the face. That morning, I was catching every curveball like I'd ordered the whole mess myself. We chased her for hours, not minutes, hours, through vines thick enough to strangle a buffalo, over fallen logs slick with moss. past termite hills taller than a grown gorilla on tiptoe, and every time we thought we were close, she slipped through again like a bad memory. But something was eating at me. And no, it wasn't just the fact that I was scraped, bruised, and starting to question every decision that led me to this moment. It was her behavior. She didn't run like a hunter. She ran like someone trying to hide. Every few minutes, she'd slow down, look behind her, not at us, at the trees, at the sky, like she expected something worse to show up. Eventually, we lost her trail completely. The forest shifted around us, darker now, wetter, louder. My companions were grumbling, the air thick with blame. "You should have let her go," said Makolo, the biggest of the three. "One cub isn't worth this." "Excuse me?" I spun on him. "Say that again, out loud, just so the trees can hear how heartless you sound." He didn't flinch. "You're not a hero, Bao. You're a distraction." Nice, real supportive. The guy eats half the fruit from every foraging trip, and suddenly he's the moral compass of the group. Still, I said nothing more, not because he was right, but because deep down, part of me got it. We were wasting energy, risking ourselves. For what? Then we heard it. Not a growl, not a scream, a whimper, software choked, real. We moved toward it, silent now. Instinct taking over. My heart thudded so hard I swear it echoed off the trees. I pushed past a curtain of leaves, and there she was. The hyena, curled up inside a hollowed-out tree, barely breathing. Lumi lay beside her, untouched. His fur was damp, but he was alert, looking around, wide-eyed. And then I saw the truth. She was bleeding, her hind leg mangled, bone showing through the skin. Whatever did that to her wasn't one of us. It wasn't the jungle either. It was steel, a trap. I don't know if it was poachers or some idiotic tourist leaving junk where it didn't belong, but that leg? That wasn't natural. That was human-made pain. And suddenly, the whole chase rewrote itself in my head. She wasn't stealing a cub. She was running from something. But try telling that to Makolo. He stormed in, chest puffed, growling like a Saturday cartoon villain. "Step back. I'll end this now." I stood in his way. "You want to fight?" "Fine," I said. "But you'll have to look a dying animal in the eye while you do it." He blinked, because in that moment, even he couldn't deny it. She wasn't the enemy. Not really. She was just another piece of this broken system we all pretend doesn't exist. The system that leaves traps in the brush, that lets creatures rot alone in pain because nobody wants to deal with the mess. Yeah. Welcome to the jungle, where help comes late and blame comes early. We didn't know what to do. None of us were healers. We weren't even sure if moving her would kill her faster. But leaving her wasn't an option. Not for me. So I sat beside her, watched Lumi crawl back into my lap, and waited. This is it. The climax is just ahead. Everything you thought you understood, it's about to flip. Don't miss what happens when lines blur and the real fight begins. You'd think the moment of clarity would feel like triumph, like a sunrise cracking through clouds. It didn't. It felt like sand in my teeth. There we were, me, a bruised gorilla with a toddler clinging to my chest, and her, a limping hyena, ribs poking out, leg mangled beyond repair, curled like a worn-out rag doll beside a fallen log. And the other males? Hovering nearby, doing that awkward thing where tough guys try to pretend they're not just as confused as everyone else. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but the facts were glaring. She didn't hurt Lumi. She never meant to. She was trying to save him from something else. And that something was starting to make a lot more noise in the distance. Branches snapped. Ground trembled. Birds bolted overhead. Something, or someone, was coming. And guess who had a front row seat? Out from the trees stepped a man. A real one. 2 legs, boots, sweat-soaked shirt, and slung across his shoulder, A bag full of steel, traps. Now, I've never been big on politics, but I know one thing. Anyone dragging bags of metal through a jungle isn't here for sightseeing. This wasn't exploration. It was extraction. Take what you can, leave chaos behind. And this guy, he saw us all, gorillas, a baby, and a bleeding hyena, and didn't blink. Just reached for his belt like we were the ones in the wrong. I stood up. No, I wasn't the strongest. I wasn't the fastest, but I'd had enough. I let out a sound, not a roar, something sharper, louder, honest. It was anger. It was fear. It was done. Behind me, the others stirred. Makolo finally stepped forward, not to fight, but to stand beside me. Even the birds stopped chirping. The man paused. Maybe it was the look in my eyes. Maybe it was the hyena snarling through the pain. Or maybe, just maybe, something in that cold, predatory brain realized he was no longer the apex out here. He turned and walked away. No drama, no chase, just quiet retreat. The jungle doesn't cheer. It doesn't hand you a trophy, but that day it noticed, and so did she, the hyena. She tried to stand, failed, tried again. I stepped closer. She didn't snap. She didn't growl. She looked at me, and I swear, for just a second, I saw thanks. Lumi reached toward her, small fingers brushing her paw. No fear, just connection. We watched her limp into the brush, slow and proud. And we let her go. Back at the clearing, the others were waiting, confused, angry, asking too many questions. But I didn't explain. Because some stories, you don't tell, you carry. Not every villain is evil. Not every hero wears a cape. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not fight. It's to stay, to witness, to understand, and to stand your ground when the whole system tells you not to.